Forums of meeting order. First order of business is approval of the agenda. I would like to propose a minor addition, which is for a regularly scheduled agenda item to the committee to evaluate library director. Says board action required to actually that's doesn't just makes the appointments which are voting. With that amendment, adoption. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed, say nay. If and then I'll call for public discussion. The public address the board. So we'll move to item 4A. By the way, of course, we will builders are doing our business. The kickoff is at 7:30. It is a sellout. There will be trouble park, so we will do it diligently and expeditiously. I have season tickets. I've had season tickets from back when there were 3,000 or 4,000 of us there. This is not being diligent, but I don't know who it is, but it's somebody to think about this for some reason like this. Yeah, tickets. Yeah, so we try not to miss. Is it? Okay, so the first item of business is to appoint a committee to evaluate the library director. We typically start this in November, and then so we sort of aspire to have a report in January. It's frequently in February. In fact, there's no published rule that says when it has to happen. So I did ask Dan, who served last year, if he would mind sharing this year, and he's agreed to do that. He said, I'm looking for 2 volunteers to join. Joseph. So you can organize the committee. Actually, again, there are no rules about how this is done. We've sort of settled in the last few years into a way of doing it that but if the committee were to choose to do it, the rule would stop. Okay, with that, we can move on to policy review. That basic alteration policy. The packet, red line, comments, questions.
But with that update, but there are some small typo things, and it's mostly in the C also section. The meeting room and lobby use, there's not a parenthesis about this. I forget what that symbol is called. And then in the right next to it, library, if all of the everything else is capitalized, then the library should be also. I'm just missing. And then at the very bottom, the very last. One more library should be capitalized. We now have an 11 5, yeah. Everything else is capitalized, and there's one library in there that's not. Library materials. Yeah, library materials. Yeah, and then the first line too. So there's just a couple. Yes, John's not here. I'll do that.
Their comments or questions? Remember that research always call out that it's relevant. C. First, identify that.
And always adjusted as of whether or not the subcommittee takes action. That is at the pleasure of the board president. So that's one thing I wanted to make clear that we had a little discussion on that, but I want to make sure that that's something that is discretionary.
The bylaws say the president appoints all the committees, with the exception of the search committee, but the director has to be approved. But are there comments on the charge? I think what I'll do then is ask any who are interested in serving on that committee to email me in the next, let's say, before Thanksgiving. If I don't hear from 3 people, then I'll start doing that.
It's like all the time, but also not.
Right, I think that's something for the committee to decide.
Okay.
I
I have to really think of my time.
absolutely. I think that it would be worthwhile for the committee to briefly touch base on some reasonable frequency. We say, are there any issues? Probably talk to the library director. Anything going on we should be thinking about. Yeah.
That's a great thing. Thing for the preparing the draft statement.
Would be rare.
Very timely and also. Time.
Right, but I would assume preparing something would happen once a year or twice a year or something.
Just think about how many statements we've made in the last few years. That sounds. And then the ones that
Looking at the Netflix, Netflix.
I'm the same. Might feel more limited.
Well, I think committee will also want to consider though practically how often you want to do something.
Could I make that in addition? So perhaps not third bullet point. I think perhaps instead of simply stating only preparing relevant public statements, it might also be I'm not going to wordsmith, but I think another action would be identifying public statements that the board wants to sign on to, like we did with the City of Literature. So not simply preparing your own, but there might be a statement that you are supporting. So then that would be, but still right. So I'm curious if that would be considered a fourth bullet point, or if it could simply be preparing relevant draft public statements or identifying existing public statements.
We could certainly stick to that. Sound right? Does that make sense? Yeah. I think it might also fit under suggesting that. So that's but no harm in calling it out. Read it back to us as you have.
I didn't even go back on the third bullet. Change from only to identify.
So is the word preparing? Preparing draft or identifying.
So after drafting, we'll identify.
Right, or identifying public, pre-existing
Board's consideration.
statements, or, for the board's consideration. Because I do think that that is a separate, I feel like that's one category of advocacy.
Others? Okay, so let me know if you would like to serve. Yeah, good. That. Right, so it's the staff reports. So, remember about all right. But I do think that we had our meeting. I'm directly some good back and forth about a huge bit of time. Very well about the request to 40% of currently yeah. But it's not a meeting that you get a lot of the direct answers to that, but I felt listening to you, I thought it was a good conversation that has, we'll kind of see what the next step question. So people, anyway, that's helpful. Um, might be, I don't know. It's this is the board of trustees meeting. Oh no, so that's why did I go? Well, Tom, I'm Trinity. Yeah, I thought you were Trinity. She wanted me to take over today. Is there a coup? Keep up the good work. And sorry for not being nice. No, it's see you there. So Trinity's on.
Oh, okay.
Something
Got it. Oh, he was in the wrong.
And Katie also sent it out.
No, and the only other thing I just want to report that two of those priorities were not included in the final report. Those are the two that pencil forward last year. Oh, we're talking. Any question?
There is.
Why didn't we put forward last year? I think that's right.
Do you have a sense of why perhaps they're not? Okay. What about?
But
Oh,
so,
I'm sorry, I'm a little confused.
so they said that of the last study questions that we introduced to do a political study, which we didn't do. But it goes there.
I strongly disagree. Yeah, no, this is not a number.
And I think that because it's political, directly and I understand that, and that's if we're looking at full city code, and we have to take a few
Sure.
from all of our suggestions. So I understand.
Okay. Can I encourage a consideration for next time that when this particular is submitted again, which I think it is, that, and I'm happy to help, that we prioritize the impact that this has in a community, because it lowers ratings of school systems, it impacts real estate exchanges, it also impacts dollars that remain in the community, starting to preserve streams in other areas. And so I would encourage us to make a closer connection between access and freedom, the way these policies impact public education, and how they impact city engagement and funding, and then consequently use of policy.
Yeah, I can share that next year, and that I did what we would send back. We can also always and
Limited my ways to do.
it has a lot.
Sure.
This is a pretty tightly simplified things.
Of course.
But I think we can always send more and they compare.
Well, thank you for considering.
I'm just curious. So all department heads that have how commonly things bubble up from that process as opposed to I don't know. If it's the first year for school. I'll go with going. Also, I don't know. My impression is always once that this is a pretty global, so that's what I think I need to do. You know,
Right.
I think the deadlines are soon, but with a position statement on that, it's appropriate that we can go legislative reception application.
I think it's worth looking into and certainly checking in, but you know, we do have faculty at the university that I'd be happy to reach out to ask what they're expert.
I think we
Perspective
just
is
need
on this
talking points, but I think it would be nice to take the reception when we have the audience sitting there.
Yeah.
And it's a limited audience, it tends to be only one or two people that show, but still it may have done with some information like that.
Yeah, I don't think people sometimes consider that there
Right.
are economic impacts.
Right, and I think you're framing.
Yeah, I'll be happy to share that information with you on.
Yeah.
So what is the best way for us to receive that? Because if we need to do it formally, because otherwise it'll be a communication. It won't be consistent with different meetings long. Can you think that?
I think Lucy would should.
You just carry it. So,
It also could probably.
Yeah.
but I think it, we have the sitting there. We have, it's a nice, this would have been a perfect place to do it. We had to pick another option.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's some statements that would certainly,
What else do?
I think that'd be wise.
Well, we really want to. Yeah. That. I don't think it's more specific to trustees.
right,
But I don't remember the time. Right, so I think we're ready to do that. I think so.
it would also be helpful, does the city have a strategic plan,
Yeah.
mission statements, if we have those, we could crosswalk and make sure that we, explain how the Police Library supports the strategic plan and mission.
Comments on the director report. Sorry. Yeah, too busy to,
And I really stopped away. I was trying now, sitting here, I was like, "Should've gone to the easy." I'm really great at this, but I'm so sorry. Like, go to YouTube. Nice photos. Actually, to watch the rest of it. I don't think I put that in, but we did use it afterward because people were very interested in book bands event or referencing Crows event. And so
Legislative levy. And words will be out probably on a national. Even because common good is picked up. Yes. Yeah. I assume there will. I have. One of them. They have a team. You do have to be a member to vote.
yeah.
But, it opens, February or March 3rd and goes through people. It's to be announced. I don't know if it's announced. It's annually they celebrate. So we might need to buy. Yeah, that's on the West Coast.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. I'll be here.
Yeah, but I had a total tweet and, one library going out there to. I'll be proud. Oh, sir. Yeah, Sam's worth it, I guess.
You know, board members comments on single report.
They prepped, so I can't speak.
Okay. Oh, report.
We all know that.
Okay. Any questions or comments? Yeah.
Oh, I think I got the. Very light.
Very light. Very light. I realized as I walked out that, I better suspend a bunch of ones.
You can still check them out.
But I won't be able to. That would happen. Thanks. Thanks. President. And I would like to finance. Had a finance committee at last. I checked the minutes, I couldn't find any card for the finance committee. And so I guess what I would like to do is solicit a few people to volunteer to write such a charge. Not a big document, just was finance committee. So I'm nervous about having committees that don't have documents. So volunteers. Three people, Robin, thank you.
It was Carol. Okay. Do that one. That was a little solid. You were efficient. Yes. You can say it.
Someone
I think
else?
originally it was, the idea was. I don't know, because I almost feel like the purpose of that, actually Ellsworth does when he does his kind of comment over the financial, like he kind of combs through and finds things that are outliers, brings them to us. The finance committee at that point was kind of looking for these things that we didn't understand or that we wanted clarification on so that we could prep Ellsworth ahead of time so that he could ready with some kind of explanation or not or look into it as needed or that kind of thing. So I think in our meeting, maybe 1.5 meeting, we kind of realized we were already doing it, that we're just as a finance committee, we're just taking a little more closely so that we're like outliers or we just don't understand. And a lot of times that has to do with line items being moved to a different line item. It was like Carolyn also this things that we didn't understand either. It was city freezing. That was more full across the city that just didn't make sense to the library. But you guys are using it appropriately, or it was just from one place to another, or one expensive. Good report ahead of the budget seemed to cover most of what our finance committee was talking about. Or I think that's how far we got with it and so that was where it started. I don't know if there's a different idea of where it should go or what it should do or I'm curious also if it might shift in ways as you see the library or lack thereof.
So I think I'm going to do this pushing into this. I think it's an issue of what responsibility really really subcommittee that knows the operations because you have fiduciary responsibility. And the second thing is I think they're going to be under significant stressors for their budget. That would be a committee that should consider working with the director on strategies or alternatives that could be present publicly as we have financial positions. And it's just to get an idea of what officials are.
Great.
Right, it's
When Carol and I were out, like a year and a half or 2 years ago, it wasn't a library client.
They get under
When you need something, maybe
so those are considering working on the one for consists of for about a 1 day period. They're going back and forth. So it's just a couple of drafts and then clearing for the feedback. It wasn't a huge task. We think that DJ shook his head.
And so TJ said yes. Okay, great. Thank you all. And then I'll finish my presentation report with relevant to finance. I did ask Ellsworth to invite somebody, it's the manager's office, to brief us about what they see going forward as the financial climate. Do we have a date for that? So Jeff will be here to go there and tell us what things look like. Let's think about that. Questions about the future of the city budget, what that might mean for libraries.
Over Lincoln's library book sale, we have to Thanksgiving. To come to family night on Thursday the 30th at the exact same time as the legislation is set up. So I can't go to the legislation time. It's Scholastic book sale time, and we'd be happy that Scholastic walked on their policy about diversity because that was a tough question I had with my sales rep. She asked me if there's books that would be attacked. No, it was a tricky question to field, and so walking back those statement, I think it can work out. Or I hope that, or they realize what backlash is coming from them. Because it's really important for us to have book fairs for a bunch of reasons. One is a chunk of books for my library, and I'm sure even in mine's fairly well funded, so I'm sure it's true for other ones. But if you don't make a certain dollar amount, vendors won't come to you. So Scholastic is the only book sale vendor that will still send you a book sale if you make less than $5,000 on a book sale, which to me makes me furious because it's cutting out the people who need it. You know, like the ones who can't afford to make less on a book sale. But anyway, there's my other side soapbox. I'm fun, but it's for me.
I have a question. In the announcement of the plan for sale, trade the Iowa on libraries, how much are we is that being canceled last year? That was a huge hit for the libraries, but now that it's going to be restored, I'm just wondering if we have any libraries. That's a big set. I know some of the press just said, right, the sale is back and the effects on the library. Okay.
Like to put out a little incentive there. So the conversation is a well-known, it's like if you got an academic journal in the newspaper and you went on a hot day, that's what you would get, the conversation. And it's written in an accessible way, and it's a way to translate again research and scholarly work into, just acceptable language. And so there is a really wonderful collection of articles that have been written by researchers all over the country on book banning, book challenges, intellectual freedom, and some of these issues, again, from just an informative perspective. And it's freely available, it's open source, and it's a wonderful way for you to share with people and just have informed conversations across the things that you take in. So if someone asks you about your role as a trustee at the public library, if someone asks you why they should do, opinion about this at all, it just gives you a lot of those kind of interesting perspectives for having these conversations. And the LIS faculty at WIWA, we requested and put in a proposal to submit one. So we're hoping that this will come out around Christmas time. Again, because we want to just invite people to discuss these issues in different ways. So I'll happily send the link out to everyone. But there is a very, very cool collection of brief, easily accessible articles that can just make the conversation a little bit more fun.
Is that something also include in our statement?
I think it would. So I'll definitely.
As the library's cardholder database. Also for January, the public relations policy also. Page your calendar, put it on the same 21st.
Yeah. You should just have so this day we find trustees there for a portion of the day. We want that this year and remember to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, you should be getting that.
Okay. So we should rock our company.
Yes, yeah, so
I'm not trying to put myself in some place you're not asking us. This is something.
Oh, really, the language is it really is a good enough stuff for one. That's fine. Other than yeah, it's really quite complicated. All right, having completed our business, I think that this will take care of it. Thank you all very much.
So we're well in.